There we go. Well, Lynn's got some music for us to center to. Well, I am not aware of any announcements today. Does anybody have any announcements for today? How about joys and concerns to share?
It was a joy last Wednesday for us to meet with Valley Mills women. We had a really good meeting, a good lesson, a good discussion following, and it was just really great to be there with all of us together.
I have a couple of joys. I got to go last night and see Brand in his winter percussion. I have the shirt on, and they did really well. I'd not seen them perform or any winter percussion group perform. I was really impressed. And the second thing is my poinsettia, which the kids got me several years ago, is blooming again, and it never blooms at Christmas. So I think it's a little late poinsettia.
Well, my niece and nephew and the kids all made it safely to Peru. They had to stop in Lima and go through all kinds of government things to get visas and whatnot, and weren't sure how that was going to work out, but it all went without a hitch, and they are now home in Yurmaguas, Peru for a year or so. Made it safely, and that was good news to all of us.
How long will they be there?
Roughly a year. They are there to basically finish working themselves out of a job, make sure that local people are able to take over the things that the discipleship center, which is a training center for pastors that they have created, and that kind of thing. So the plan is people ended up having to step up because they needed to stay here for Maggie, and so they're basically just there to make sure things are still going well and help get things lined up so they can continue without them.
I'll mention the joy. Beth and I went to the symphony last night, and the symphonic choir was singing, and part of the children's choir. And we were pleased to see up on stage was a member of when I served the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Elkhart, Indiana, and back in 1971. and a member of that church was in the choir, Mary Gosling, and she's 96 and still singing in the choir.
I remember her from when I was in the choir. Yes.
She was one of the leaders of her section.
Well, the joy I have is the work of the search committee for Wilmington College for a new president is just about done. We have a recommendation to make to the board on Friday. So we interviewed over 50, or we had over 50 applications, and ended up bringing one person to campus who was already on campus. It was the current interim president. So so far she has passed muster with everybody. So I think it'll be so nice to have that done, and she will be, if the board approves, the first Quaker president we've had for a long time. Corey is a convinced friend. She first came to Friends through her husband, who was a student at Wilmington College in the ag department, while she was up getting her PhD at Ohio State, and the only way she could see him was to come down to the college, and she liked the Quaker values, and he did too, so they began attending Hardin's Creek Friends meeting in Wilmington yearly meeting, and that's where they're members today. So it's exciting to have that process done and to have a Quaker in place as well. Well, Chip is our worship leader this morning. Let's hold all these things, these joys in the light, as well as the concerns of our hearts. And Chip will speak out of the silence as he feels led.
Well, my friend Bill told me that my messages were sometimes a little on the dark side. And so I tried to liven this one up. It was 12 pages long, and it was way too funny. So I had to redo it. My message for today is going to be about journeys. So let's start off with Matthew 6:25 through 34. Therefore, I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, nor about your body, what you will put on it. Is not life more than food, and body more than clothing? Look at the birds in the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet their heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not more valuable than they? And which of you, by being anxious, can add a single hour to his span of life? And why are you anxious about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin, yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. I was going to put in here that clothing is pretty important, because I found out when I rode the ponies and I was playing cowboys and Indians with my brother that I got in trouble for wearing only a headdress. And so clothing is important. My sources for today's message come from Webster's Dictionary, Wikipedia, the Bible, quotes from famous people, and the book Big Panda and Little Dragon. I will throw in references to movies and Broadway shows because that's just what I do. Now, I must tell you that my first thought for an opening number was either Follow the Yellow Brick Road from The Wizard of Oz or Ease on Down the Road from The Wiz. But you know that clerk, Brent Bill, would never allow that. Moving on. What is a journey? The dictionary says it's a noun, an act of traveling from one place to another. She went on a long journey. A verb, traveling somewhere. They traveled south. Here's something I'm sure you've heard. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. This Chinese proverb means that people must begin his or her journey to reach their goal or destination. No matter how long the journey may be, you have to start at the beginning and make that first step. There was a song from Sound of Music, which I didn't leave in. Now, in 1994 film Forrest Gump, Forrest was told by his mother that life is a box of chocolate. Well, to me, life has been more like a game of Monopoly. Monopoly is a multiplayer, economics-themed board game. In the game, players roll dice to move around the board, buying and trading properties and develop them with houses and hotels. Players collect rent from their opponents and aim to drive them into bankruptcy. You start on go, and you keep going around the board until you reach the end of the game or the end of the journey. Now, there's a song from a Broadway show, Seesaw, and it's called It's Not Where You Start, It's Where You Finish. I must say, in terms of Monopoly, I am still on go. I have gone around and around the board, and I'm right back where I began. I'm still living in the house that my stepfather built and my family moved into when I was in the 3rd grade. I didn't get very far. I'm still on go. The start. Now let's go back to my journey. Oh, I should say journeys, as I've had a life journey as well as a religious journey. I would like to say I had a normal life, but it was anything but normal. It started out good, but my life had so many twists and turns. I basically am having a good run, but it was a bumpy ride to get here. I worked for the government for 38 years, where I made training films and PSAs. I was a hippie and protested for peace. I was a dancer, an actor, and a producer. I worked with the health department at health fairs where I talked about HIV and AIDS. I have a wonderful son and a wonderful grandson. I live in the greatest country in the world. I have a roof over my head and enough to eat. I have a wonderful family and friends. I am so blessed. Now, my religious journey is kind of funny, as there too I finished where I started out. My parents were both Quakers, and I became a member of Center Friends Meeting and went there most of my youth. I have always been interested in religion and loved to go with others to their places of worship. I hit them all and finally found the one that fit for me. Have you ever seen those questionnaires on the computer where you answer a bunch of questions and you find out what's the best place for you to live or what's the best job for you to have? Or have you ever done one on religion? What religion really are you? I took the test and found out being a Buddhist would be the best religion for me. Now, this didn't happen just once, but every time I saw one of those tests, I would take it, and it was always Buddhist. Now, I had studied Buddhism, and it did work for me. So I practiced being a Buddhist and was happy. Now, when I moved back home to take care of my mother, one day Mother said she would like to start going to church again. And would I want to go with her and find a church? I said I didn't want to go. I wanted to go back to a Quaker meeting, back to our roots. We checked out several meetings, and I finally ended up at West Now, on a side note, do you know that Buddhists are not allowed to drink? So all this studying and no one ever said, oh, by the way, you're not allowed to drink wine. A year or so, just for fun, I took another one of those, what religion are you? And guess what? It said I was a liberal Quaker. How about that? Now, my journey is not over, but I'm really happy and content where I am at this point in my life. Now, a quote from writer Nancy Willard. I haven't a clue how my story will end, but it's all right. When I set out on a journey at night and night covers the road, that's when I discover stars. So what is the most important part of our journey? The journey or the destination? This brings me to the book I read called Big Panda and Tiny Dragon, written by James Norbury. It is a story about a big panda and a tiny dragon that meet one spring day, and they travel together on their journey. Never sure where they are going or where they are. They have hard times and good times, but they have a great time together. One day, as they were traveling and little dragon was riding on Big Panda's back, they had this conversation. Which is more important, asked Big Panda, the journey or the destination? The company, said Tiny Dragon, and I have found that to be true. In my journeys, the most important part were the people that I met along the way. Some people you love, some people you always stay in touch with the rest of your lives, and some you are mean to you and you learn from them and move on. And now a quote from author Rosalind Glickman. Embrace your life journey with gratitude so that how you travel your path is more important than reaching the ultimate destination. I would like to close with Jeremiah 29:11 and Judges 18:6. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans of welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. And the priest said to them, go in peace. The journey on which you go is under the eye of the Lord. May the light of God surround you. May the love of God enfold you. May the power of God protect you. And may the presence of God watch over you. Wherever you are, God is.
As many of you know, I was a teacher for many years. And when I was working on my master's degree at Butler University, I had a professor who said almost every time we came to class, for the students, it's the it's the trip, it's the journey, not the end of the journey, but the trip that you take on your way to the destination. That's the important part. Teach the students for their journey toward their destination. He emphasized that almost daily. And he reinforces what you said this morning.
Thank you, Chip and Lynn, for your offerings this morning. We'll now continue with unprogrammed worship for those, more unprogrammed worship for those who can stay, and those who need to leave. We wish you Godspeed for the week and hope to see you next Sunday. Are all hearts clear to end meeting for worship?
Thanks, Chip. Very
Thank you.
thoughtful sermon.
Thank you.
Good to see everybody.
Yeah. The other day, I know I mentioned Corey's being interviewed on campus. She had an all-campus interview with on Zoom. About 150 people showed up for an in-person and then on Zoom. And at the end of it, at the end of the question period, when there weren't any more questions, she goes, "Are all hearts clear?" And I thought, wow,
there's a true Quaker.
there's a Quaker. And Chip, did you know Monopoly was invented by Quakers?
I did not.
It was originally called the landlord game, and it was to show the evils of capitalism and exorbitant rents in Philadelphia. And
Wow.
so it was supposed to, it was, anti-landlord and anti-monopoly. And then, of course, in the good American way, we turned it into about trying to get a monopoly and win the game. So,
Interesting. Thank you.
sure. I am a fountain of worthless Quaker trivia.
Interesting, though.
Wow.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say, Sue. It's fascinating. Whether it's useless or not, that's a different question.
Wow. Well, everybody have a good week, and we'll hope to see you next Sunday.
Sounds good. Take care.
Bye.